it's a wet and soggy day here in the garage, and we've got the Possum for a companion yet again. So it's the perfect time for us to implement our new hoses and new ignition equipment, and we can try and get the car going a bit more. Maybe we'll even get a spark today. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Now these are the new hoses we've got for the car. To replace this one, we've got this new one, which is from a Subaru Forester with the 2.5 litre engine. So that's a pretty good match. It's the right size internally as well, so we'll try and put that on. Hopefully we won't have to bend it too much. We've also got this long one from a Toyota Corolla, which is very long, and we're going to try and cut it in half, and then we'll have two. So hopefully they'll be alright. To replace this short one that came off the air filter here, we've got this one, which is about the right diameter, and we're just going to cut it to the right size because they didn't have anything shorter. This radiator top hose was the most difficult one to find, and we weren't able to find the exact one, but we were able to find this, which hopefully when shortened will do the same job, but we'll have to wait and see. Certainly on the inside they're the same diameter. Alright, so I was just about to fit this hose to the bottom of the radiator here, and then onto the bottom of the water pump here, and I noticed something very strange on the label. It's got May 1947, which is when the car was made. So before I fit any hoses, I'm going to try and flush the radiator again, just to get rid of this horrible brown muck from down here. And to do that, I've put the drainage bucket underneath, and rather than have the horrible old water go out over the chassis member here, I'm going to fit the new pipe upside down, and then hopefully it should go straight into the bucket. Certainly better out than in. I've popped a bit more water through, and that's certainly much better than it was. So I think that'll do us for the time being. Now I'll try and put the hoses on. So I'll try and see if I can... I can't turn it round unfortunately because the fan belt's in the way. So I'll have to try and put it on again. Just the other way up. Oh no, I forgot to put the hose clips on. Stupid. That should go on that way. Oh dear, oh dear. So I'm trying to put it on at the water pump end now. Like that. That's good. One hose in position. Now I just need to tighten it up. This screwdriver is useless. That screwdriver is the minnow of screwdrivers. What you need is one of these. Now that is going to undo a screw, or do up a screw. I'm never going to get that big one in there, so I'll have to go back to the minnow screwdriver. So I've got the old hose here and the new one from a Toyota Corolla lined up on the bench here. I'm just going to see where they need to be cut. I think I'll do it about there, just to give it a bit more room. Gave up on the knife, and I'm going to use a hacksaw blade instead. The knife's taking too long. Alright, so there we are. There's one hose roughly matching the original. In fact, hopefully it won't have this horrible great big kink in it, the new one, so it might even function a bit better than the old one. Alright, so I actually had to modify this end of the hose as well, because it wouldn't quite go onto this bit flush and then fit on the sticky outy bit on here. So hopefully now I should be able to get it on just, and I'm going to put the hose clamps on now so I don't forget later. Where is hose clamp? Ah, there it is. That looks good actually. I'm going to get out my proper screwdriver. It's time. Yes. This screwdriver is so satisfying. There we are. 2 hoses put on. Now this one, which is the sort of hose bit for the air filter, so it's just an air hose really, it doesn't have to be too exciting, only has to be quite short, so I'll cut that off about there I think. So here is the air cleaner and muffler. It's a Burgess acoustic product, don't you know? Anyway, I'm going to put the newly cut hose on like that, and then hopefully that should just sit on here like so. It needs to bend a bit, but it'll bend with time, so I'm not too worried about that for the moment. I'm not going to put it on just yet because we still need to fiddle with the spark plugs and the rest of the ignition system underneath. Otherwise, I think that's a job well done. Now I will go around to the other side of the engine and we'll put the radiator top hose on the thermostat housing and the radiator itself. So we're on the other side of the engine now. Here's the thermostat and thermostat housing. This is the old hose which was on here, and this is the new one, or the closest thing we could find. We had great trouble finding anything remotely similar to this one, so it'll do for the meantime and we'll get a proper one eventually. We'll still have to cut this one down slightly at either end. In fact, they've had to cut the old one down when they put that on. So I will chop that down and then we'll take off the thermostat housing to get it on properly. Alright, so I'm now going to take off the thermostat housing and then hopefully we'll just be able to slide the hose on. Ah, there goes the nut. Alright, I found it. So this is the thermostat, which should be loose now. Yes, that's good. Okay, that's one key thermostat. Don't like the looks of this. So now we should be able to just about get the hose on, which I have cut. That should go on like that. A little bit tight. Yes, okay, that goes on. Now I better put the hose clamps on. One on that side and one on that side. Now it's stuck on here. Alright, so I've been fiddling with the hose. It's about the right shape now, and I had to cut a little notch in it to fit on this notch here. So I'm going to try and fit it on now. Just put that on. And I think it should be about the right length. very difficult. Oh, okay, that's good. And I took out the temperature sensor as well, so I could move it about more easily. And before you ask, I cleaned off the thermostat, so hopefully it shouldn't be stuck now. Where is the gasket? I put the gasket down somewhere. Oh, right in front of me on the airbox. Okay, so that can go in. I'll get a new one eventually, but for the time being, this one will do. So that should just slide in. Well, that's the top hose on there, and the thermostat housing back in, as well as the other reflow hose, or whatever it's called, back on too. Now I think it's about time to stop fiddling around with hoses. I've had quite enough of hoses for one day, so we're going to go on and have a go at the ignition again, see if we can get a spark. Alright, so we're now going to put in some new spark plugs. They're NGK B6HS's, and if we take one out the box and compare it to, oops, pick that up later, and compare it to an original Champion L10, like the car would have been supplied with in the 1940s, you can see that they're almost identical apart from the length of the ceramic putt. So I'll whip them in with a little bit of oil on each one before putting it in the car, so hopefully we'll be able to get it out again, and then we'll see if we can get a spark from it. I've also got another coil for us to test with it, so hopefully that should allow us to see if we can get a spark. Perform a couple of little tests on the ignition system without the battery connected to see if I can work out if the coil is the culprit of no spark. I'm going to use the multimeter to measure the resistance in kilo ohms between the positive side, which on this car goes to the distributor because it's positive earth, and the HT lead, which is of course in the centre. So I'm going to pop that up there, and I'm going to set the multimeter to 20k ohms. A normal reading would be between 4 and 12,000 ohms, so kilo ohms. So we'll see what we get. It's gradually reducing, so that shows it's got some electrical capability. Oh, it's going up now. Well, it's not completely broken. All right. So we'll have another go looking for spark with this coil connected. I'll brush up the connections, but before we, but now I will connect the battery and I will check to see that the switched side of the coil is getting 12 volts. So I'm now going to measure the voltage, DC, 20, I've set it on the multimeter. I'm going to connect the negative side of the multimeter to the other side of the coil, which comes from the battery when the ignition is switched on, so the switch side, and I'm going to put the positive side of the multimeter on the battery, and yes, the coil is getting 12 volts. I have turned the ignition on, by the way, that's normal. So it looks like the coil is getting power, so that we don't have a loose connection between there. So we'll have another go turning the engine over and see if we get a spark now, and we'll see how that goes. So I've set this up in the following way. I've used the spare Champion L10, which is the original from 1947, and I've attached this little crocodile clip to the positive side of the battery, which is of course earth in this car. That should simulate the earth of the car rather than having to rest it on the engine block like we did last time. So the coil is receiving power, we've checked, so I'm going to turn out the light now, and then we'll turn the engine over and we can look on the end of the spark plug for a spark. We're still not getting anything resembling a spark, so I'm now going to revert to plan B and put in this spare Lucas coil I have lying around. It's not ideally suited because it doesn't have a screw fitting, but I'll just stuff the HT lead in there and we can hope for the best. And here is the new coil. This one seems to go the other way around for some reason, but the negative side here will come from the switch, like so, and the positive side will go to the distributor. Just temporarily connected the new coil here, and now we're going to reconnect the battery and see if we get anything out of the spark plug. We're going to try it now. Try showing you again. No, still not getting spark. So my next choice or possibility of why we're not getting spark is the condenser, which is likely to have failed after sitting around for decades. And if I can get the distributor cap off, like that, we shall have a look at it. So this is the condenser here, and I don't know how we're going to get that one out. I do have this other one that I borrowed from the 64 Triumph. It looks a bit different though. This is going to be interesting. So we've just been trying to look at the condenser, and it's not like anything I've ever seen. This is the one out of the newer 1964 Triumph, and it's completely different. This one almost looks like it's been soldered in, so I don't know what to do about that. The only other thing I can think of trying is actually wiring this one up externally to here and then grounding it through another crocodile clip. So we might try that, and if we can't get anything out of it, then we'll call it a day. I think I'm going to reinstitute the original coil for this one, because that probably wasn't the problem. So I'll put all the wires back and that'll be a lot neater. The rain's got harder, and I have reassembled the coil and the distributor, or whatever I took off. I've also put the leads and the cap and everything back on. However, now we have the brand new condenser out of my other Triumph, loosely hooked up to the positive on the distributor and ground via the spark plug here. So it's sort of external now, but that's hopefully not going to stop it working. And we'll have a last go trying to get a spark. I've also checked the points, by the way, and they look clean, so hopefully they're not the problem. So I will switch out the light for the last time, and I'll reconnect the battery like so. Light out, zoom you in, and we will see what happens. Looked like nothing to me. I'll have one more go. No. So I'm trying a last attempt here. I've got a screwdriver in the coil with a crock clip attached to it, and I'm going to just hold the clip next to the engine block here, and we'll see if a spark jumps out the coil, just bypassing the distributor, in case that's the problem, which probably isn't, but worth a go. So we'll switch out the light and then try that. Nope, nothing. Hope I didn't disturb you there, Possum. So that's about it for today. The Possum is fast asleep, and although we've had no luck with the ignition, we still managed to fit new hoses and new spark plugs, so done something today. All that remains is for me to say thank you for watching, and ta-ta for now.